Hey everybody, let's today talk about graded comics because sometimes graded comics comes with a little bit of controversy. So I'm going to give you kind of my take on the whole deal. So um, let me start at a little bit of background with me and my collection. Okay, when I started collecting comics when I was 12, and I mean actually collecting, not just reading. And then when I was 14, I came across a Overstreet price guide at the library, and I started collecting for condition. So I was scouring the supermarkets and the convenience stores for the nicest copies the day they came, before they got all mangled up by the masses. So I started collecting very early, especially for condition. But the main reason I collected comics was because I loved reading them. I read every single comic I bought. Um, I can't say I've read every single comic in my collection now because I have amassed quite a bit. But at that time, I was reading everything. And I still love reading comics to this day. So for me, reading comics is a huge deal. When grading came around, I thought, well, this is a little weird. How do you read your comic if it's encased in this thing? So, to me, I was like, I don't know about this as a personal collector. And then it kind of really took off, kind of followed the card market with its grading. And so now we're at this point where grading is a major thing in the hobby. And you have people on both sides of the coin on this. So let me kind of give you what my perspective is. As a personal collector, okay, me as a collector, I prefer not to have graded comics. I have about 13,000 comics in my collection. About 30 are graded. And the only ones that I have graded in my collection are what I would call the super keys, such as Fantastic Four #1, Spider-Man #1, X-Men #1. Ones that are worth, a few $1,000s are the ones that are graded in my collection. Mainly because I decided to get those comics graded, as I eventually will sell my comics. And those are ones that have to be graded to get the price you need to get out of them. So I've already graded those comics for if I do, and probably one day I will sell them, they'll be ready to go. Otherwise, I love pulling out comics and reading them from time to time. I know everything's in trade paperback and you can do that, and I have some of those, and I do that sometimes instead because I'm just too lazy to pull out the comic that I want to read at that point in time. But it's just, to me, it's there's nothing like pulling out the original comic and reading it. Now, that's me on a personal level as a collector. As a business owner, I'm slightly different. I obviously realize that there is a huge part of the collecting community that are into graded comics. And so because of that, we cater to that part of the collecting community too, as much as we can. We don't stock tons of graded comics. And to be real honest, I send in very few comics to be graded. The only ones I send in are ones that are usually worth over $1,000. And that is because you have to have those comics graded a lot of times for someone to pull the trigger on buying a comic of that much money. So we mostly have raw here. We do have some graded comics, probably 80 to 90% of the comics graded in the shop people have brought to us already graded, because we send very few in. But we understand that people love graded comics, and so we do have those also. We have all kinds of graded comics here. We have things such as Golden Age Captain Americas for a couple $1,000s. This is an example of a comic book that if you want someone to pay this price, you have to have it graded because they want to know there's no restoration, it's all original, it's all there, and it's all good, and the grading shows that it is. So a comic like this, as a business person, have to have it graded. As a collector, you do what you want. You want to grade it? Great. If you don't, no big deal. That's up to you as a collector. We also have some medium range ones like this, okay? And then we've also, some people bring us in some of these that are in our bargain bins. To be honest, I don't understand why people grade comics like this, okay? Now, I do understand a collector if they're like, this was my favorite comic as a kid, I want to grade it, I want to hang it on the wall. Totally get that. I totally understand that. But if people are grading these comics because they think they're going to get some investment thing out of it, I think it's a bad idea. But we do see these a lot also. Like this one here, it's in the half price bins, $30. Okay, so we have all kinds of graded comics here, mostly raw, but we do have graded comics for those that like that. So ultimately, my thought on graded comics is this. As a collector, collect what you like. If you like raw comics, collect those. You like graded comics, collect those. And these people on the internet that try to shame the other community, are just wrong. I'll see people on the internet that's like, oh my God, I cannot believe you graded comics are the devil. They're awful. That's an opinion, okay? Some people like graded comics, and I think that's great. I also get the other side, where there's the guy who says, oh my God, I can't believe that you're touching that comic without gloves. Well, that's just me. I like reading my comics without gloves, and I like looking at them without gloves. So those people also, should not be shaming the people that like to just look at their comics, while eating a peanut butter sandwich maybe, all right? So I absolutely understand both sides, and ultimately in this hobby, I'm a huge believer in collect what you love, collect what you like, whether it's graded, non-graded, Marvel, DC, Topps, comics, whatever you love. That's why we're in this hobby, okay? Collect what you love. Have a great day.